Good afternoon, I'm Vashon Brown with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. In light of the increased number of detainees in St. James under the current state of emergency, more holding areas are to be made available soon. During a recent tour of Montego Bay, Security Minister Robert Montague announced that the Barnett Street lockup will be reopened soon. The facility was ordered closed by the Ministry of Health. Mr. Montague said corrective actions have now been completed.
Based on the treatment, there is a time, it takes a time, and I think we have done the cleanup and the treatment. Right, and the grounds are being cleaned, and we will, get in touch again with the Ministry of Health to do a walkthrough before it is opened.
Meanwhile, the National Security Minister says plans to split St. James into 2 police divisions are now on hold. He was speaking to journalists following a recent tour of the parish. Now we have more in this report.
Talks of splitting St. James into 2 police divisions were first echoed in 2016 by then Commissioner of Police Dr. Carl Williams at a PSOJ President's Forum. Dr. Williams had said the move will better enable the security forces to tackle scammers and criminals who have been operating across the parish. But why did the government choose to pause the process of splitting the parish into 2 divisions?
Because of the enhanced security measures as well as the ZOZOs.
The security minister also noted that the shortage of police personnel is hampering the move.
What we discovered was that the training spaces were run down and were short, and the government has taken the very positive steps. We have an MOU with the University of the West Indies to be able to train 600 police officers per year. We have increased the space at Harman Barracks, so we are now at 250 per batch or 500 per year. And the renovations at Twickenham Park hit a snag that we discovered asbestos in sections of the building. We are now in the process of removing the asbestos.
Another cause for concern that Mr. Montague noted was the number of personnel leaving the JCF.
But then we have to take into account the attrition rate from the police force, and we are slowing down the attrition rate as well by improving the working conditions of the hard-working men and women of the Jamaica Constabulary Force as well as the Jamaica Defence Force.
St. James last year recorded over 300 murders. So far this year, 13 persons have been murdered. O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
And still in St. James, there is a call for the transportation sector in the parish to be vastly improved. This came from Mayor of Montego Bay, Homer Davis, as he welcomed the Minister of Transport into the parish last Friday. But the mayor wasted no time in highlighting the issues affecting the resort town.
There is no doubt that the transport infrastructure in Montego Bay is grossly inadequate. And that leads us to a number of the challenges that we are having in terms of illegal parking and indisciplined behavior of some of our own taxi operators.
The infrastructure of the bus park was not the only issue for the mayor. He said drastic work needs to be done on the 4-decade-old road network.
I have been here for over 40 years, and the only development in terms of road network that has taken place in Montego Bay is really the Howard Cook Boulevard. So you can see that we are still operating with a system, with a road network, with an infrastructure network that has been here for over 40 years. So you can understand that at that time, the population of St. James was 70,000. It is now close to 200,000. So you can imagine what we are enduring down here in Montego Bay as it relates to congestion.
Meanwhile, Transport Minister Mike Henry told the gathering that the Montego Bay Transport Centre is to be upgraded at a cost of $30 to $40 million.
What drives me is trying to connect this piece by piece into this multimodal concept of transport. I wouldn't call this a transport centre because it doesn't meet everything.
Speaking of the transportation sector, Member of Parliament for Portland Western Darrell Vaz has announced that work should begin shortly to upgrade the transportation system in the parish. Speaking at a recent groundbreaking ceremony for a new police station in the parish, Mr. Vaz said that the upgrade include air, land and sea transportation. The details in this report. And we do apologize for the absence of that story. There will be another temporary traffic change tomorrow as part of the Barbican Road Improvement Project. The National Works Agency, NAA, says Birdsucker Lane will be closed at the junction with Barbican Road at 10 a.m. to facilitate base works in preparation for paving. NAA Communications Manager Stephen Shaw says the closure is expected to last for 26 hours. Access to Barbican Road from Birdsucker Lane should be restored by 1 o'clock Thursday afternoon. During the period of closure, motorists are advised to use the alternative routes of Graham Heights to Graham Close, then onto Cherry Drive, Garden View, Carmel Terrace and Carmel Avenue, ending on Russell Heights from where Barbican Road can be accessed. Omar Collymore, who is implicated in last month's murder of his wife and her driver in Forest Hills, St. Andrew, was remanded when he appeared before the St. Andrew Parish Court yesterday. His co-accused Michael Adams and Dwight Pink were also remanded. Both men have attorneys. However, Mr. Collymore is without legal representation. They are to return to court on March 21. The men are charged with the murder of Simone Collymore and Winston Walters. They were shot on January 2 when gunmen on motorcycles sprayed bullets on the vehicle in which they were traveling. There will be a change of the guard for the People's National Party PNP in the next general elections for Northwest St. Catherine. Now this, as Member of Parliament Robert Pickersgill brings to an end his almost 3-decade-long political career. But he did not leave PNP supporters wondering who will be his successor.
Has my total backing as the candidate.
Addressing party supporters at a divisional meeting on Sunday, Mr. Pickersgill re-emphasized the importance of Northwest St. Catherine in the fold of the PNP, stating that the PNP has never lost that seat.
That is why you see them 7 stars up here? Yes. That's why I'm referred to as a 7-star general. And I know that if I had offered myself, I'd become an 8-star. But Hugo will be the first star.
Hugo Graham, who was nominated by Mr. Pickersgill, highlighted some of the major issues he'll be tackling within the constituency.
Comrades, we have some major issues. Unemployment and crime, just to name 2 of the top ones, as I understand from my family. Comrades, I'm working on unemployment, especially for the youth and for the children of the comrades that are here.
And we go back now to an earlier story where Member of Parliament for Portland Western Darrell Vaz has announced that work should begin shortly to upgrade the transportation sector in the parish.
Member of Parliament for Western Portland, Darrell Vaz, says there are plans to modernize the public transportation system in the parish. Mr. Vaz says the rapid growth of the town centre in recent years has created traffic problems and needs to be addressed. The West Portland MP says the Jamaica Railway Corporation has given the go-ahead for the municipal corporation to use a parcel of land it owns to build a transport centre.
A well-needed transport centre where people can go and get their transportation without interfering with the regular flow of traffic.
In the meantime, Mr. Vaz disclosed that the government is now finalizing the terms and conditions of a loan with the China Exim Bank to execute the South Coast Highway Improvement Project. He adds that the project will be started without the design from China Harbour of the Harbour View to Yallah's leg of the highway.
The subcontracts from Port Antonio to Morant Bay to Yallah's, and Morant Bay to Cedar Valley, we are going to proceed within the next 3 months to start those subcontracts while China Harbour continues to do what they need to do for the bigger highway project.
The MP said the road from Harbourview to Port Antonio is almost impassable and needs to be addressed urgently. Mr. Vaz also announced that the Ian Fleming Airport in Boscobel, St. Mary will be expanded. He says that the expansion of the airport will help with tourism in the parish.
The preliminaries are far advanced, and we're going to get that going so that we can land the planes closer to Portland so that we can take advantage of people, the tourists, the locals can take advantage of the beauty of Portland. Because right now, we know what is happening from Montego Bay and the timeline from Montego Bay and Kingston. So that is going to be a tremendous tourism boost to access the parish of Portland.
Shane Masters, TVJ News.
News overseas now. In the United States, Congress is back in Washington this week and gun control is front and center. It was also a major topic of discussion during U.S. President Donald Trump's gathering with state governors on Monday. The details from the CNN.
Nearly 2 weeks have passed since 17 people were killed in a Florida high school, and the gun control debate is raging.
We continue to mourn the loss of so many precious, innocent young lives, but we'll turn our grief into action. We have to have action.
The White House has yet to release specific legislative framework for any gun-based proposals, but the president pledged to eliminate bump fire stocks and called for strengthening the country's background check system.
You just got to go and check who you're selling a gun to. I mean, these are things that are just, they're not depriving anybody of their Second Amendment.
Some support raising the minimum age limit for purchasing certain types of arms.
To say that you can go by on your 18th birthday, blow out the candles, and then go get a semi-automatic weapon and then turn it and put a bump stock on it and be fully automatic is just nuts.
And while the president and others have called for arming teachers on a voluntary basis, not everyone agrees.
When one holds up a gun in that situation, they might well be the person shot at by the police, believing that they are the one that is committing the atrocity.
As the debate continues, the victims of the Parkland shooting wait for change.
I feel angry. Angry that we let this happen. Angry that we did not solve this problem a long time ago.
And time now for sports. Media personnel with the Jamaica bobsled team, Kathleen Polito, has contradicted statements made by local President Christian Stokes after the team's driving coach stepped down during the Winter Olympics.
There is always multiple sides to a story. And while Jamaica Bobsled Association President Christian Stokes provided one, media personnel Kathleen Polito seems to have another. When news surfaced about a rift between then driving coach Sandra Kiriasis and the Federation over her role, Stokes affirmed on February 14th that all was well in the camp.
Jasmine has a very good relationship with a number of people. They have been friends, but she's very close to Dudley Stokes and she has a lot of support from her teammates. So she'll be fine. As a matter of fact, she's more focused. She is in a much better mood. Since we have refocused the coaching effort. So all in all, it's been a positive outcome for her.
But fast forward to February 25, and Polito painted a different picture of the Jamaican camp.
The trust that was broken. As a driving coach, she built relationships with the girls, and just to go through that turmoil and watch someone, report false things. It was very, very difficult. They become part of your family, and then to have that happen to us in the way that it happened, it was certainly heartbreaking. It was horrible to watch.
Polito also explained the uncertainty the team encountered after Kiriasis claimed responsibility for the sled, which left the team weighing their options.
We always knew we were going to end up with a sled. Regardless, we were going to be on the start line. We didn't know for sure. It was dicey at times. We didn't know what sled, but we knew, one of our good friends, Canada, offered to give us a sled if we needed it. And, we always knew, but...
And after beer company Heineken, through their brand Red Stripe, purchased the sled for the team, their performance was hampered by a faulty brake system. This has led to Polito pleading for more support.
We need a sled mechanic. Now that we have a sled, we need a mechanic. Every other team is traveling with a mechanic. And our first race, we didn't notice, but the break was dragging.
Yes.
And we were trying to figure out why her times, started to decrease as they should increase as you go down the hill. And we didn't find that issue until the last race. And it was unfortunate because it would have saved us some.
Jamaica will now turn their attention to qualification for the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympic Games. Renard Brown for TVJ Sports.
And that's the Midday News. I'm Vashon Brown. Join us at 7 for Primetime News Package. On behalf of the News, Sports and Production teams, have a good afternoon.